everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you a little bit of my pregnancy story on how I got pregnant at first try and a few things that I did and I believe really helped that happen. Before I got pregnant, we had reasons to believe that it was not gonna be easy for me and my husband to have a baby, at least not as fast. And I decided that because the idea of not getting pregnant frightened me, I was gonna take control of the situation and do a few things to improve our possibilities. And I believe they really work. So I want to share with you step by step, more or less, what we did and what worked for us in case you're in the journey of trying to get pregnant or thinking about having a baby and also want to actively do things to make that easier or faster. Before I tell you the tips and tricks that I follow, I want to say that if you are having a hard time going through this process of pregnancy, if it's not being easy for you, if it's taking forever, if you have an infertility issue or your journey is an IVF journey, I am with you. It's a hard process. It can be a tiring process too, and as I said, I had reasons to believe that me and my husband were not gonna have it easy, so I spent lots of nights and days thinking about the possibility of having a hard time getting pregnant, and it's tough. So I'm sorry, and you have my full support. So hopefully you get pregnant soon and you have your baby in your arms before that you can realize. But maybe the things that I have to share with you will be helpful, and so let's continue with those. I want to mention a couple of things before we start because all of us should have that into consideration. This is obviously not a mathematical process, and biology has a huge part on this. Maybe it's everything, right? But I believe that there are things you can do to improve your chances, or at least be systematical so you know if something is not working. The first thing I did was set a doctor's appointment. I went to see my gynecologist in this case. He did an ultrasound to make sure that everything, my uterus and ovaries and everything was working fine, and also did blood work to make sure that my thyroid, folic acid, iron levels were working fine and my weight was okay. After that, I asked about prenatals and he didn't recommend anything in specific, so what I did was find something that worked for me. I'm gonna leave you an image of what I took. I decided to take the 1-a-day prenatals, one because they had all the levels of vitamins and iron and minerals and everything that I needed for the pregnancy, and two because you can buy a set that includes his vitamins and her vitamins, so your partner can start taking vitamins when you start too. That's what we did. 6 months before we tried to get pregnant, both of us started taking prenatal vitamins. Once the doctor said that everything was working fine, the second thing that I did was start tracking my period. I used the app Clue for doing that, but you can just start tracking your period on your diary, agenda, planner, whatever you have. Just keep a track of how many days and more or less the length of your cycle. I had a shorter cycle than a lot of people, so around 26-27 days. I was super regular, and that's even more important when you stop taking birth control. The third step is that once you stop taking birth control and you have more or less a track of your period, you should start tracking your ovulation. Once you're not taking birth control, if you're taking the pill like me, you're gonna start ovulating again. You wanna make sure that that is happening. We set an appointment with the doctor around 6-7 months before we thought we wanted to get pregnant. Then I started tracking my period, and more or less 2 or 3 months before I wanted to get pregnant, what I did was stop my birth control. If you're taking birth control pill or IUD or any form of birth control that is in condoms, you should stop it a few months before you try to get pregnant. Once I stopped taking birth control, I started taking the prenatal vitamins to make sure that my acid folic levels were high enough to improve my chances of getting pregnant. And at the same time, I tried to start tracking my ovulation. Once you stop taking birth control, you're gonna ovulate again. And to make sure that I knew at which point of my period I was, I bought this on Amazon. I'm gonna leave you the link to this one, but any test that tests ovulation and pregnancy. I bought this one because it was fairly cheap. It had 50 ovulation tests and 20 pregnancy tests. And more or less, once my period was finished, every 2 or 3 days I will test my ovulation. I did that for 3 months to make sure that I had an idea when my ovulation would happen. I tracked that information in a notebook and also in the app Club. By the time I wanted to get pregnant, 6 months after my doctor's visit and 2 or 3 months after I stopped taking birth control and tracking my period and ovulation and taking prenatal vitamins, I was pretty sure that I knew when my ovulation would happen. Once you have more or less an idea of when your ovulation is happening and how long is your period and all things like that, you are ready to start having sex, right? That's how we make babies. What we did was having sex every other day around the time that I knew I was ovulating. What we tried was every other day during the week or period that I knew I was ovulating. And more or less, we only had to try for a week. Some things you should avoid during that time is using lubrication of any type. You should try to do it as natural as possible. And also, one tip that I have is that you avoid standing up too fast, changing positions too fast, or going to pee after having sex. I am not sure that works, but it's what I did, and so I believe that worked. And then I would just recommend that you try to relax and don't obsess about it. I know it's easier to say than actually do. I've been there, but just, you know, talk to your husband, laugh about it, have fun, and enjoy the process as much as you can. And if you wanna, on the side, follow my recommendation and track your ovulation, track your period, track everything, and make sure that you're doing it at the best time possible, that would also help. But no need to obsess about it. 3 or 4 days before I suspected my period would come, I actually took one pregnancy test from this box. It's one of these strips that basically just tells you if you're pregnant or not, but it's not one of these fast 3 days before your period pregnancy tests, fancy ones. No, it's just one of these basic, like a chemical project kind of strip test. I used one of these ones because I didn't want to waste one of the clear blue fancy ones. And this was around 22 days after my period, after I had my period, so it was pretty early. At first, when I did this test, I didn't believe it was positive. I wasn't reading it right because it's confusing if you read it, if you're used to reading the ovulation test. Basically, the test line was very light, so I thought that was negative. Once I read the back of the strip, it was positive, and then I decided to do one of these fancy clear blue ones. I actually bought a package that included 2 types. The very fancy ones that tell you the number of weeks, and then the more like analogic ones that just has the strip or the cross telling you if you're pregnant or not. I took both of them, and both of them came out positive. So that was 100% a positive test. I was 2 to 3 weeks pregnant. We were super excited when the test came back positive, and also very scared because you're never ready to have a positive pregnancy test. But it was good, scary. And I also want to say that if you're trying to get pregnant and it hasn't happened this month, have patience. I know it's easier to say than to do, but try to be positive, try to relax, try to enjoy the process, your partner. It can be tough and difficult, but hopefully these tips and tricks of things that I did can help you get your baby faster. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and share it. I will be uploading new videos every week. See you soon!